one of a 3-part Yoga Basics series. We're going to work on cultivating wellness in body, mind, and spirit, and today we're going to focus on the body. There are many, many physical benefits to the practice of yoga, not the least of which are better balance, increased flexibility, and strength. But there's all kinds of more subtle things that yoga can help with. It can help with weight control, particularly because we're more aware of our bodies after practicing yoga for a while. It's good for blood pressure, better sleep, all kinds of more subtle things like that. So to get started, you'll need a yoga block, or maybe just a stack of hardback books duct taped together, and a yoga strap. We often use an old necktie for that, and maybe a blanket or a small pillow to pad your knees or maybe the back of your head. So yoga means to join. That's the word in Sanskrit, to join. So we are joining our breath and our movement. We're joining our body, mind, and spirit. We're joining our spirit with God's spirit. In fact, the whole point of yoga, the 5,000-year-old tradition, was to connect with the divine. So whatever name you use for the divine, that'll also be a benefit. So with the body, we want to start by sitting up tall. You want to feel your shoulders stacked right over your hips. If your knees are up by your ears somewhere, you could sit up on a yoga block. I'm sitting on a yoga block, or a chair or a stool. Something to help your knees drop down below your hips. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And as always, we will begin with the breath. So in yoga, we want to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, most of the time keeping the mouth closed. And the goal is to keep our breath nice and smooth. So as we go through the poses, paying attention to our breath can help us be sure that we're practicing in a way that is safe and appropriate for our own bodies. Just know that whatever your body is capable of, it's okay. It's a journey. So as you simply inhale and exhale, you might be noticing a settling. You can get a little deeper into the physical breath by breaking it down into 3 parts. So maybe you rest one hand on your belly. On the inhales, you want to be sure that your belly is filling and expanding. Maybe place your other hand just above that at the bottom of your ribs. And as you inhale, be sure that you're filling the belly and the ribs. Then maybe take that first hand and stick it above your heart, near the collarbones. Gently feeling the breath expand all the way up towards the collarbones, and then every exhale happens in reverse. Collarbones, rib cage, belly. So you could leave your hands where they are, you could let them go, and keep practicing that inhale. Belly, rib cage, collarbones, softening in reverse. Take 2 more deep breaths. It's always good to go back to the basics. I like to make the observation that yoga is a lot like playing golf with people of different ability levels. Everybody can play together. So just remember that you're your own best teacher. There shouldn't be any pain. Stretching sensations are good. Sharp pains, not so much. So we're going to lay down onto our backs. So a really safe way to do that is to shift to one hip, stick your arm out, and then roll onto your back with your knees bent. So we're always going to begin by moving the spine, that houses the central nervous system, where all of our nerve endings run to our body and supply our organs, muscles. So It's important to keep that central nervous system healthy. So we're going to make a very subtle motion with our pelvis. You're going to pull your mid back towards the floor, tilting your pelvis, the base of your pelvis upward, exhaling, flattening out the curve in your spine, and inhaling, gently release. Exhaling, hollow out, flatten that mid back curve, and inhaling, gently release. We're going to do that 3 more times. Exhaling, tilting the pelvis. Inhaling, gently release. The goal is to keep the back of the neck long and the jaw soft. Exhaling, tilt. Inhaling, release. Feel your feet fully engaged with the ground. Exhaling, tilt. Big toe mound, pinky toe mound, base of the heel. Inhaling, release. So keeping our feet engaged, the feet are the foundation, very important. And take your feet and walk them side to side so that they're as wide as the edges of your mat. And take your arms straight out to the side. We're going to do a little gentle spinal twist. So exhaling your knees to one side, really doesn't matter which one. Inhaling through center, exhaling your knees to the other. So some suggestions if this is your first experience with yoga. Inhaling, just keep moving with your breath. It's important to have an empty belly, so try not to eat an hour or 2 before you practice. Just keep moving your knees from side to side like windshield wipers. Also just wearing clothes that are, give you some freedom of movement but aren't too loose. So go to that second side one more time. And then come on back up to neutral. Walk your feet back in line with your hips. Pull your low belly in. Just draw your knees into your chest. Just gently rock from side to side. Kind of massaging the spine and the hips. Maybe it would be good to make some movement with your ankles, circles, or pointing and flexing. And let that go. Plant your feet. Roll to one side, coming back up to seated, the same way that we came down. All right, we're going to come onto all fours. So starting to check in with the knees. If there's any tenderness in your knees, you could take a blanket or a small pillow or even a towel, a hand towel or something, and tuck them under your knees for some support, softness. So we're going to just expand the motions of the spine a little bit more, right? So even here, I'm pushing the tops of the feet into the mat for stability. My fingers are spread really wide. That's going to help protect the wrists. Push into the thumb side. And on an inhale, tilt the base of your spine up, rippling through the crown of the head up. That sway back cow shape, and then exhale, start from the pelvis, do that pelvic tilt, and then let it ripple through the spine until your head drops, if that's safe. So remember, you're your own best teacher. Inhaling, gently arch. And exhaling, hollow out. So in general, on the inhales, we're extending and expanding. And on the exhales, we're hollowing out and folding. Let's do one more. Inhaling, gently arch. And exhaling, hollow out, release. And then just look over your right shoulder at your right ankle. Start to feel a little side stretch. Look over your left shoulder at your left ankle. And then inhale, come on right back to center. I'm going to start to get into some more full body movements, warming the core. So inhaling, take your right leg out behind you. Toes point down, heel, shoulders, crown of the head, all in line. Maybe you want to stay here, maybe you want to challenge yourself and take the left arm, thumb toward the ceiling, and come back to your breath. One more deep inhale, get longer, and exhale, release. And you rock your hips from side to side. We'll get ready to go to the other side, so inhale the left leg out. Lifting your heel, toes pointing down, and maybe you want to take the opposite arm forward. be patient with the body as it gets warm. One more inhale. And exhale, gently release, and go ahead and rock your hips from side to side together. Again. Okay, so we're gonna come to seated. Do another easy seated spinal twist. So I'm just sitting on that one hip, right? Just resting my top ankle in the arch of my bottom foot. Get really, really tall as you inhale, and then exhale, twist away from your feet. Inhale, get tall, and exhale, maybe twist a little deeper, keeping your shoulders level, using your belly to support your spine. And then being mindful of the transitions, gently release the twist. So to go to the other side, we're going to simply sweep our feet forward, right? Sitting on both hips evenly, holding the backs of your thighs, lift your chin, lift your chest. So this is just starting to warm the core a little bit more, right? You might want to rock back onto your hips and lift your shins like you're showing your camera, your feet, bottoms of your feet. Maybe you release your hands and take your fingertips forward. Wherever you are, all good. You could rest your hands behind you, no pain in the low back, right? And exhaling, we'll drop our feet, shift to the other hip, and get ready to do that easy spinal twist on the other side. So get really, really tall, and exhaling, gently twist. So we're gonna lay right back onto our bellies. So I'll shift my feet so that the front of my mat stays the same, right? Go back onto that hip, swing the feet around, and land on your stomach. So it's just as important to strengthen the back side of the body. So we'll start with some gentle back bends. On an inhale, push the tops of the feet into the mat, and come up onto your elbows with your elbows right under your shoulders. Keep the back of the neck long. Just expanding the rib cage. Try and make the space between your shoulders and your ears longer by pushing your elbows into the mat. So a gentle, easy first back bend. You could even think about doing that little pelvic tilt to protect your low back. One more deep inhale. And exhale, gently release. Take your elbows out so that you can put your hands under your shoulders. Again, keeping the legs engaged, so strong legs make safe back bends. As you push your feet into the mat, think of your spine getting longer as you inhale. Lift the back of your head, maybe gazing forward. And exhale, forehead to the mat. Once again, inhaling, lift. Exhale, forehead to the mat. Last one. Inhaling, use your legs, lift, and exhale, forehead to the mat. Then squeeze your legs together like you have a mermaid tail. And inhale, lift your heels, and reach your fingertips toward your ankles. Just gaze at the front edge of your mat and take a few deep breaths. And then releasing, put your hands under your shoulders, squeeze your elbows in. We're going to reverse a push-up onto our knees. So yoga push-ups are a little bit different. All right, we're going to keep our hands and our elbows close to our rib cage. Pull your low belly in. Try and get your hips up first. It can be a challenge. And then come on to all fours. Now you notice that my shoulders, my knees are slightly forward over my hips, right? But my shoulders are still right over my wrists. I curl my toes under and lift my hips up, my knees up, I'm in the top of a push-up. Just take a breath here. And exhale, float your knees down. See if you can keep your hands where they are. Just push them into the mat and rock your hips back towards your heels. So this is a child's pose, right? This is a really nice pose to feel completely supported, but it can also be very active. So we're going to keep this one kind of active, pushing our hands into the mat. Hips all the way to the heels if you can. How you feel? A nice stretch in the shoulders.
Head drops to the mat if you can. Some modifications would be to take a block or those books or a pillow and stick it between your hips and your heels if you have knee issues. Or to put the block under your forehead if you don't quite have the flexibility in your hips. So reach your arms way forward. Inhaling your shoulders back over your wrists. All right, so if we curl our toes under, we come to the top of our push-up plank. So we're on our toes and our wrists. To come to downward dog, we're not going to move anything. We're just going to pull the low belly in and up, lifting the hips as you drop your heels. In our first downward dog, so it's more important to be one long line from the hips to the hands. So if you need to bend your knees, if your hamstrings are tight, just go ahead and bend your knees. Take a couple breaths here. But remember, you can always drop into child's pose for some rest. One more deep inhale. Squeeze your elbows in, make sure your fingers are spread wide. And exhale, float your knees down. No clunking the knees, right? And then we're going to come to a low lunge. So I'm going to keep one leg where it is, pull the other foot forward so my hips are way forward of my knee, but my front knee is still right over the ankle. So what we want to avoid is extending the knee beyond the toes. Just keep that knee right over the ankle. It's a great place to use your block to make your arm longer, right? Just start to feel that stretch in the hip flexor. Take your arms up in the air, palms facing one another, increasing that curve, lifting your chest. Maybe take your gaze up. Root that front foot. Activate your inner thighs. And exhaling. We're going to come to all fours just to switch sides. Bring that knee back. Bring the other foot forward. Drop your hips. Front knee right over the ankle, engage that foot. Take a few breaths here. Exhale, pull the low belly in. We're going to come to standing. So great way to do this safely. Just curl your back toes under. Lift that back knee into a high lunge. Scoot the back foot in 1 step or 10 steps to meet the front. Before you come to standing, keep your knees soft. Check in with your feet and have them about 2 fist widths apart. Outer edges parallel to the outer edge of the mat. All right, so we're going to shift our hips down. Reach the crown of the head forward. Rest your hands on your thighs. Squeeze your elbows into your wrists, into your ribs, so that you can come to standing. And we're going to build our Tadasana, or mountain pose. And we turn forward. Again, feet about 2 fist widths apart. Outer edges of the feet parallel, so you might feel a little bit pigeon-toed. And then lift your toes, spread them wide. Sometimes it helps to spread the fingers. It'll make your toes go too. And then put them down. You'll feel how that kind of drew your arches together, like the ball of your foot and your heel, so it firmed your legs up. Then drop your tailbone. Zip up that low belly. And the upper body stays nice and relaxed. Just breathing. So Tadasana, mountain pose. If I came and tried to push you over, you'd be super stable. Wouldn't be able to move you. And we'll try our first one-legged balance. So if you want to go to the wall to hold on to a wall, or if you have a chair, or you could be against the wall behind you, you're going to shift your weight into your left leg. All right, so I'm your mirror. And you're going to put your foot on your calf. Or maybe you're going to lift the heel up into the inner thigh and get the foot above the knee. No pressure on the knee joint. You could do something different with your arms. What's going to help you keep your balance is to find one point to Rest your gaze, focal point. In Sanskrit, it's a drishti. And then just come back to your breath and use it to calm the body. And then exhale and gently release. Shift your weight into the other side. Foot into the calf or maybe up above the knee. Get all the benefits no matter where your foot is. And then take your arms up if you like. And exhale and gently release. Nice. Okay, so we're gonna take a big, wide straddle. If you took your arms out, your ankles might be right under your wrists. Right, the tailbone's dropping down. We'll start to do some asymmetrical poses, right? So it's starting to figure out where your body parts are in relation to the other. You're gonna turn your left heel inward, and if you drew a line on your mat, it would be a line just in line with the back arch, right? My hips are still facing completely forward. So we're settling in for warrior two. Look at that big toe and take your knee right over the middle of the foot so you can still see your big toe. Right? Shoulders right over the hips. And then just take your arms out, palms facing up first, like somebody's pulling on your wrists. And then try and keep your upper arms where they are and just turn your lower arms, palms facing down. And then gaze over those front fingertips. Go a little deeper into this pose by resting the forearm on the thigh and reaching the other arm up overhead, palms facing down. Just look at your big toe. So you're one long line from your top wrist to your back heel. Inhale and come on back to warrior two, shoulders over the hips. And then straighten that front leg and turn your toes back forward. So we'll set up for that same thing on the other side. Turn your right heel in, heel to arch alignment. Look at that big toe and take the knee right over the middle of the foot so you can still see your big toe. And to adjust the length of your stance. Right? Shoulders right over the hips. Palms facing up. So you're nice and long, and then simply turn the palms facing down. Gaze over your fingertip. Use that easy breath. We'll go a little bit deeper. Take the arm overhead, one long line. Come on up to warrior two. Turn those toes in. We're going to stay right here. You might want to have hold of a block. So stand up really, really, really tall and then soften your knees and fold yourself forward. So we're going to start with a flat back, upper body parallel to the floor. Maybe you extend your legs. It's a good place to check in and figure out where your weight is on your feet, not too far forward, not too far back, right in the middle. Spine extended long. On an exhale, you could maybe go a little bit deeper. Mostly keeping your spine straight, right? We're just folding from the hips. A nice stretch in the inner thigh and the backs of the legs. Then you're going to stick your right hand right under your nose. So maybe that's on a block. Maybe your block has 3 settings. Just keep your spine long. Pull your low belly in. Keep your lower body where it is, and then inhale. Lift your left arm to the ceiling. Gazing at that side of the room. Feet equally rooted. One breath. Inhale, get longer. Exhaling, release. On your next inhale, we'll twist to the other side. Back of the neck long. And exhaling, gently release. Good. So we're going to walk ourselves back around to the front of the mat. Right. Float that back knee down, front knee's right over the ankle. And we're right back to all fours. Go ahead and rock your hips from side to side. I'm going to come back onto that first hip. Cross my right leg over. So if this bothers your bottom knee, you can stretch your foot out straight in front of you. The goal is to have both hips on the ground. So both a spinal twist and a nice little hip stretch. You're going to sit up tall. Take your right hand behind you. Your left arm's either going to hug your knee, engaging that inner thigh, pushing that foot into the ground, twisting around your spine like a corkscrew. Or you could take your arm to the outside of your thigh. Again, shoulders level. Find one place to rest your gaze. So this is great for our internal organs. Strengthen those core muscles around your spine. And exhaling, gently release. Never miss an opportunity to work on the core some more, so come back to that. Seated, holding your thighs. Maybe you rock back onto your hips. Show me the bottoms of your feet. Maybe you reach your arms forward. Try and keep your ankles, your knees, everything in line. Right. And exhaling, gently release. We'll shift to the other side. So again, stretch this bottom leg out, your right leg if you need. Both hips on the ground. Firm up that foot. Draw the inner thigh towards the ribs. One hand behind you as you get really, really tall and twist around your spine. And exhaling, gently release. So we're going to take ourselves back down onto our back. Slowly and gently rolling down, knees bent. So much of yoga is posing and counter posing. We're going to do a gentle chest opener back bend and finish with a forward bend. So back bends in general are energizing, extending the spine. So you can maybe touch your heels with your fingertips. Feet are right in line with your hips. Check in with the bottoms of your feet. See if you can get as much of that foot engaged with the ground as possible and make the back of your neck really long. And on an inhale, push into your feet and lift your hips up. And exhale, drop them down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhaling, lift your hips. Exhaling, drop them down. 1 more time, inhale, lift your hips. This time we're going to stay there. You could stay here, or you could take your hands and interlace your fingers underneath you and tuck your shoulder blades together. Oops, walk out of the way so you can see. Lifting your hips, lifting your sternum, as if you could stack your sternum right over your throat. Keep your inner thighs and your big toes activated. 1 more deep breath. And then exhaling, release your hands and slowly drop your hips to the mat. Good. So pull your knees in toward your chest, rock from side to side a little bit. So somewhere I read recently that yoga is like a playground to the rest of the world. So we're going to come to seated. We can do it playfully, or you can simply roll to one side. But if you want to give this a try, take your heels up and just rock from your hips to your shoulders a little bit until you get some momentum. And come back to seated. A little fun, right? Like you're a little kid again. And one easy forward fold. So this is where you might want to have a strap or a necktie. I've got a loop in one end, but we're not going to use it. So draw your toes back toward your knees, sitting in Dandasana, so seated staff pose. And then you're going to walk your spine forward. Try and keep your back flat. You can rock your hips from side to side to help you. And then holding, try and keep your arms straight. Your toes still drawn back, feet flexed. Then lengthen the back of your neck. So maybe you want to let go of the strap if you can get a hold of your feet. So don't go too deep, too quickly. We use our exhales to help us soften. We're going to be here for 5 more breaths. If you squeeze your quadriceps, your thigh muscles, tops of your thighs, it will help release the hamstrings, the backs of your legs. One more deep breath. Then inhaling, gently release. Draw your feet together, soles of the feet together, chest lifting up, knees just dropping down. Take a couple breaths here. Start to notice all the good energy in your body you've created. Maybe wiggle your shoulders a little bit, or move your head. We're going to release, bring the knees back together. And we're going to settle into Shavasana, which is the most important pose of all. This is where you might want to have a small pillow or a blanket or a towel to support your head so that your back of your neck can be nice and long. So literally this can be the hardest pose. But the whole point of all this movement is to allow the body to be still. So if you have issues with your low back and you want to keep your knees bent, that's okay. Tuck your shoulder blades together. You might want to stretch your legs out all the way. Heels are heavy, toes flop open. And just come back to your breath. Notice how your body feels. If you feel any tension anywhere, send an exhale there. And then there's nothing to do until you hear my voice again. If your mind gets distracted, just come right back to the breath. And really now there's nothing to do until you hear my voice again.
So we begin to get moving again. Just take one deep breath and notice the length and the softness and the openness of your body. And to get moving, we'll move starting from the extremities. So the opposite, we begin with the spine. Now you're going to begin with the fingers and the toes, maybe making fists. And then spreading your fingers wide, pointing and flexing your feet. Eventually, starting to involve the knees and the elbows. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You just want to get your body moving again. Eventually, I want you to roll yourself to one side. It could be your right side. Take a couple of breaths in this embryo position, getting ready to begin again. And then eventually you want to reach your top leg out long and use your top hand and push yourself up to seated. I invite you to keep your eyes closed. Come back to that easy seated position, so sitting on a block or a blanket if it's helpful, just legs crossed. Stack your spine long, rest your hands on your thighs, palms facing down as a way to ground your body for a couple more minutes. So this is all about taking care of your body so that you can be your best for others. So just remember that whatever you could do today was perfect, just what it needed to be. This quote from Ash Tyson: "Your journey has molded you for the greater good." And it was exactly what it needed to be. Don't think that you've lost time. It took each and every situation you have encountered to bring you to the now, and now is right on time. So on your next inhale, bring your hands to your heart center. Exhaling, bowing your head to your own heart, giving yourself a mental pat on the back for showing up so that you can be your best for others. The spirit in me honors the spirit in you. In Sanskrit, we might say namaste. So feel free to reach out with any questions. And I look forward to seeing you next time.